This is RTT with Terry the Tiger.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for joining in on another episode of Random Talk Time. I'm the host, Terry the Tiger. And as always, don't forget to check out Cactus Chick Creations over on Instagram. Sweatshirts are about $25. She put signs together, coffee mugs, tote bags, all of that stuff. Message her for the details on that. T-shirts are going to be between $15 and $18. Check her out on Instagram. So today, I'm with my brother, and we are going to be talking an episode of Ancient Aliens, the Alien Tech. It's going to be from Season 2, Episode 6. If you want to watch it yourself, watch it. It's a great episode, and as I've talked about technology before on this show, this one's going to deep dive into how, why, possibly when the tech got here, and what type of technology we've gotten since then. So think about it. That's what I want you to do. So think about how, why, when, and come up with your own idea or your own thoughts.
Rockets capable of destroying entire cities. Fire that burns underwater. And fighter jets that fly without pilots. Throughout history, advances in technology have led to the development of powerful weapons, each more deadly than the last. We go from attaching sharp stones to the ends of sticks, and then all of a sudden we have actual swords.
In the Mahabharata, 46 different types of weapons are described. They're using air-to-ground missiles, powerful particle beam weapons. It's astounding to read about events from centuries ago using weapons that are in use today.
But were these lethal weapons the product of human innovation? Or were they developed with help from another, more otherworldly source?
Extraterrestrials may well have given man these weapons. They want us to be able to advance and ultimately to be like them.
Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And might they have been responsible for the development of mankind's deadliest weapons? Japan, 700 AD. Here, according to legend, the swordsmith Amakuni and his son Amakura sealed themselves away in their blacksmith shop in an effort to forge the perfect weapon. For 7 days and 7 nights, they prayed to the Shinto gods to guide them. 31 days later, they emerged from their isolation with a curved, single-edged sword resembling no blade ever made before.
This is a quick little segment about the first ever katana, of how it was made. The first one, you can say, if you believe it, with the help of aliens, I guess. If you believe that stuff, or just the guy was very good at blacksmithing. But it's a cool little story.
I always wondered on how. Never thought about that, actually.
And the first katana that was made?
The samurai sword, never thought of it.
Yeah, never really. Just assumed that it was always the sword that
I just never really tripped off of it. But yeah, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's what you believe in. But I mean, if you believe that aliens are the gods that gave humans, or in this case, the specific Japanese man, the way to make a sword, then so be it. If you don't, then, it's a good story either ways. And, it makes the video games, the ones that are, like, really realistic, make more sense on, like, how that works. Minecraft, like, how do you build a house? How do you build a house, Albert?
You cut the tree to get the wood, you get the wood to build the house.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
According to legend, one such sword may have existed in 15th century France, the sword of Joan of Arc.
When Joan of Arc was arrested and brought to what we now know of as her condemnation trial, her inquisitors were determined to get information about her sword. Her inquisitors were obsessed with finding out about her sword, and that is because Joan of Arc's sword was reputed to have legendary power, divine power. Joan claimed that her angelic voices, led her to this sword.
She's said to have found it, as it was, hidden behind an altar dedicated to Saint Catherine de Fierbois. It is said that the sword itself was forged by the Archangel Saint Michael, and that whoever possessed it was invincible.
So, this is the second time now they're saying the technology. They're referring to the sword as technology because of the fact how they said we went from tying sharp stones to the end of sticks to now using a full-blown sword. And now they keep referring to the katana, and now they hit, what's her name? Joan of Arc. And they're talking about the swords as being technology. Again, I've talked about technology previously in multiple of my other episodes of these, because technology has changed the way we have lived time and time again. And I'm sorry, I've said this before on the episode where I talk about Bob Lazar and all of his fun stuff, but the technology that he describes, we get it from aliens. And in this episode, they're literally talking about the same stuff, but are more advanced than earlier technologies. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
No, yeah, it's very crazy. And it's even crazier when you think about certain things or certain weapons that they talk about. Like, for instance, this Joan of Arc one, just by who it was forged by, one of the four archangels, and well, apparently if you had that sword, it makes you invincible and you can conquer any army. There's another sword that they talk about from the Philippines islands, around that area. They have a legend of one of their first kings who had a sword that was as thin as a feather. And when you read books and texts about it, the description that they give or about that sword, it sounds like a lightsaber from Star Wars. And so, there's crazy things like that. Then there's the story of the Excalibur, King Arthur, and there's multiple stories of him, depending on just if you like it. But there's great stories about just different types of swords that might be swords, but might also be some type of technology, some type of metal weapon, some type of
Yeah, just
that
not.
feathered one I was talking about, some type of a plasma weapon. Even the Greeks, they talk about them having some weapon that it had 3 parts to it, and it produced fire so intense that there's a story of a war where it burns pretty much almost 1,000 ships. They said only like 2 ships out of 1,000 ships made it home after trying to attack the Greeks, and they hit them with that weapon. But that weapon, the fire that it made, burned so hot that it was burning even on top of the water and underneath the water as it was sinking. Like, I don't know how fire could sink, but the only thing that we have today in modern times that can do what that is described with that weapon is petroleum. So did they have a petroleum type weapon? It's crazy just when you think about this.
Though the Chinese emperors never achieved this elixir for immortality, they ended up with something almost as valuable. A weapon more powerful than anything that had come before.
The Chinese gunpowder technology led to this important political and this geographical changes in China, in Vietnam, in Southeast Asia. It led to the even rise and fall of dynasties.
But where did such an incendiary ability come from?
Was the formula given to us by extraterrestrials, or did somebody discover it by accident? No one really knows. Gunpowder was made of charcoal, which they burned trees and ground down the charcoal. Sulfur they would get from volcanoes, and sodium or potassium nitrate is not readily available. So how would they know to get those nitrates and mix them all together in the right proportions?
Could the formula for gunpowder really have extraterrestrial origins? And if deadly technologies like gunpowder and Greek fire really were handed down to humans by an alien race, why?
So, if they did discover gunpowder by accident, or even if they were given to it by an alien, or, because, again, there are many false gods, just so you know, there's many false gods, and I believe in my God, so, even though I believe in aliens, there are many false gods, and, yeah, so, whichever one you believe gave them this knowledge of gunpowder, because it was supposedly found by accident, that just opened up the door for the eventuality of these bigger guns and bombs and anything that can use gunpowder, that needs gunpowder, like, when was it discovered? Like, way back then, so it took many years, but I mean, look where we're at now with what little bit of gunpowder they need to make the biggest explosion by combining all these other stuff that they've now come across and invented or found on the element chart. You know what I mean? So it's just...
Yeah, and another cool thing about this episode is when they talk about the Mahabharata, because for those who've read it, it talks about the weapons that are described in there sound like some of the weapons that we have now. Like, for one of them is the exoskeleton, where you put that on. If you've ever seen videos of the exoskeleton, you can pretty much, it's not superhuman strength, but pretty much that, where you can lift 2 times your weight, you can run faster, you hit harder, you can carry more. makes you be able to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. That's one of them. Another one thing that they talk about is like ballistic missiles, different type of ballistic missiles. They talk about heat-seeking missiles. They even talk about some type of air fighter that can disappear, kind of. Well, not kind of, but it would, disappear, and according to some of articles and, military articles and some science articles, people are trying to develop some type of, kind of like the green screen cloth kind of stuff, something like that can make it where you can cover a tank and pretty much make it invisible to the human eye, to where it looks like the background of whatever is around if we were in Afghanistan.
Like the invisible cloak from Harry Potter? Pretty
much, yes. Like the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter. And in fact, in the video that they show, the cloth that they're making, that they're using, actually looks like it. Another one that they talk about is predator drones. They talk about, like, in one of the stories in the Mahabharata, they talk about one of the gods having this weapon that just flies, and when they want, it sends a missile to wherever target that it chooses, that the god chooses. And, well, if you've ever played Call of Duty, you can pull out the predator drone, hit the button, and guide it down to wherever it is you want. You can watch videos of it. You can watch military, go on YouTube and watch different type of, not even YouTube, but Netflix, different type of military movies, shows about just different type of military weapons that we have. And in the Mahabharata and in this episode, they talk about all of those weapons. And it's crazy to think that people from 1,000, 2,000 years ago talk about these weapons. And for some facts, like there's an ancient city, I forget the name of it. It's, when we discovered it, the people that discovered it, when they were walking along the paths that they think were the city roads of the city, they found a bunch of corpse, and those corpse had a lot of radioactive activity on them, and they think that a nuclear bomb was dropped on there, and because a nuclear bomb was described in the Mahabharata too. And again, that was over 2,000 years ago, so it's crazy to think of the technology that's described in there way back when. Gods, whether it was given to them by gods or aliens, aliens might have it, we have it. Who's to say that, it's interesting stories of technology and how far they've came, and to think that we still have them. Are we discovering them, or like they said, is it a rediscovery of something that happened a long time ago?
Or somebody giving us something completely new? And that's how we're getting it, there's an episode of Ancient Aliens where they talk about how we might even been given a gene by the aliens. And so,
there's a few episodes where we were supposedly given a lot from aliens. From, if you believe aliens, if you don't, well, if you believe in them, apparently they gave us fire that God didn't want us to have. They get aliens, quote unquote, gave us fire.
Yeah, so isn't it like one of the stories, supposedly the snake is an alien or something like that? some like attempter or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's crazy, you know, just...
Over and all, this is... If you've never seen Ancient Aliens, you should watch it for a few reasons. It's a knowledgeable show. It gives you something to think about. And it gives you good stories. Like this one in particular, story of King Arthur, Joan of Arc, you know, gives you things to look at or look for, different kind of stories.
And all the stories about just the different swords, Excalibur, and just how their theory of those just being technology, even like we're saying, just drones and heat seekers and all of that just being technology given to us, and how Bob Lazar has said it before, and we're, like I said, but in my last time I've talked about this, we're holding phones that does the technology he described. Touchscreen talks about that because it's all lasers, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy. Just if it's not far off from what Bob Lazar said to what could have happened, and we are seeing it now. And the Pentagon has, you know, been releasing truths about aliens and the government conspiracies and cover-up. So who's to say, you know, who's to say that they've always shaped the way we've done things, the way the will was invented, the way, like my brother said, the fire came about, you know, how did it you know, he really figured out to stand on the hill, fucking Benjamin Franklin stand on a hill to discover electricity and lightning, and to think that lightning is electricity because when it lands on the ground it turns into fire for us. So how did he know that that's what that was? Why didn't he think that was fire? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's crazy. It's a good episode. Definitely give it a chance.
From flaming arrows to heat-seeking missiles. Could the evolution of mankind's deadly weaponry really be the result of alien intervention? Could extraterrestrial beings have given us technology as a way of accelerating natural selection? Or might they have imparted their knowledge with a specific and perhaps insidious agenda in mind? Some say the answer is right in front of us, or in yet another ancient text or carving waiting to be discovered. But one thing is certain. It is best we keep looking and be prepared before they return.